Chris Buckley, Inclusion Manager for East Midlands Railway, and if you've listened to previous podcasts, you'll know all about me. But I'm with Aisha today, who's joined us as Information Security Manager at EMR 6 months ago. Hi, Aisha.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for inviting me today. I joined EMR around 6 months ago. Prior to that, I'd sort of worked in Solihull for a pub company, and prior to that, I worked in London for a software development company. So, here I am. I'm glad to be part of the team.
Thanks for joining us. So, Aisha, thanks for taking the time to be with me today. You responded to a weekly news item that I'd posted about doing some activity for Black History Month, and as Inclusion Manager, I was really keen to do something to celebrate Black History Month this time. I've been with the business 6 years, and I don't think we've ever done anything to celebrate Black history, certainly in the time that I've been here. And why, I'm going to tell you firstly why I think it's important, and then probably hand over to you to see if you agree or not. But for me, it's about amplifying Black voices, and I'm very conscious of the fact that Black people and people from minority ethnic origins are even more in the minority in East Midlands Railway and in rail in general. And by celebrating things like Black History Month, it's a chance for us to learn more about Black history and people's backgrounds and cultures, which in my thinking and in my ideal world, by understanding more about Black history and culture, then in turn help us to create a more inclusive workplace. Do you agree with that, or am I just looking at things through rose-coloured glasses there?
No, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Are we just treating Black History Month as a tick boxing exercise? I mean, I'm mixed race, right? So I've got black and white within me, and I feel quite comfortable being able to sit on the fence. But I do feel that these systems, whether it be Black History Month, whether it be, racism in general, feminism in general, LGBTQ, all of these isms that are in place, I feel maybe serving more towards creating segregation and divide within communities. And I think we have to get to a stage where we need to look to start tearing down some of these systems, and as a collective shoot towards over a more longer term trajectory of actually not needing these systems in the first place. Why do we have a month dedicated to Black history? Why can't we just celebrate everybody's history during this month? I feel adding the descriptor of black at the start only continues to shout about the difference between Black, white, and other ethnic minority communities.
I understand, yeah, and I totally get that challenge. I think so. I'm going to put my inclusion hat back on it, and I recognise everything you say, and it does remind me of a conversation I had a few years ago when I wrote the diversity and inclusion policy, and a union rep sat in a meeting and said, "Why should there be a difference?" And I get that, and I think probably my response as kind of an inclusion professional is, unfortunately, because difference exists, we need to almost be divisive and measure that difference, because there is gender pay gaps, there is ethnicity pay gaps within rail and within East Midlands Railway as well. So we almost need to be divisive to fix the problem. So we need to measure the pay difference, and we need to measure employee experience and inclusion through various tools.
So we shine a light on these issues to resolve the underlying issues, if there are any there.
Yes, yeah, we need, and there are, unfortunately, we know this from our data points, that there is division, and I take your point that those divisions have probably been caused by history, which has nothing to do with us in the here and now.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, we were all, we all are a human race, right? We're one race, and we're all different. We're different colours, different creeds, different hair colours, different eyes. That's the beauty of the race. And these systems were created. The powers that be wanted to create some kind of segregation and divide, and here we are now, in 2020, still bucketing, still categorising people, and you understand your purpose, right? We need to be shining light on what is creating divide in order to resolve those issues.
And so I think probably to that point then is recognising that it's perhaps divisive, but one of the big challenges we've got in rail is people just aren't comfortable talking about race.
Right.
They're just not. I think we're slightly better. We've done similar work with our LGBTQ plus population, and actually, and this might be me projecting my own feelings onto this situation, is that actually they were quite easy, organic conversations to have, and I wasn't nervous about saying, let's talk about LGBTQ life. When it comes to race, it makes me nervous. It makes me, I don't want to say anything wrong to cause offence.
Right.
So I suppose, but this conversation is great,
yeah.
and I'm really grateful that we're having it. How do you think we can get people more comfortable talking about race and difference?
I think initially we need to go back to basics, and I think we need to start embracing difference and understanding there are benefits to having a breadth of diversity around us, within our personal lives and within our teams. Let's think about the recruitment process. We tend to be inclined to recruit people who, I suppose, are like us, right?
Yeah.
Who can, I suppose, slot comfortably into the current team dynamic, or someone you are personally comfortable with. So I think consciously with this thought process, you might find yourself discounting an individual who comes from, let's say, a different walk of life, or who may be younger or older than your ideal preference, but that very person could bring a breath of fresh air to the team, could assist you in learning something new and be a sounding board for new creative, innovative ideas or ways of working within the team itself. So, thinking back of my experience, the most successful teams I've been a part of or witnessed are those with a dynamic and diverse set of people. And that is no matter the hierarchical placement of that team, which is quite interesting. I think it's about gauging the positives of differences and aligning the right people for the task at hand. Differences shouldn't be identified to bring us further apart. That's counterproductive.
Absolutely,
humanity was one race before, and we can get there again. So long as we make a conscious effort, I think, on the collectively to break down those barriers.
I absolutely agree with those sentiments, and one of the things that I really want to see happening when we are recruiting in East Midlands Railway is that we should always interview in panels, and where possible mixed gender panels, and if we ever have enough managers from ethnic minorities, mixed race panels as well, so we can begin to have serious conversations around actively challenging that unconscious bias that pervades any recruitment. Like you say, people like themselves. So long as it's white middle-aged males who are doing the recruitment and that recruitment is going unchallenged, then we're always going to get the same outputs.
The loop just continues, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that needs to change. So I think that's really relevant, and the whole in-groups, out-groups topic is one I could talk on all day, but conscious it's Friday afternoon, so I won't. So one of the key aspects of our diversity and inclusion strategy is about being able to be your authentic self at work. Do you find that you're able to do that?
I mean, I've had instances previously, in previous workplaces, where I haven't felt like I could be my authentic, true self. I've experienced you against I kind of relationships before.
Yeah.
And conversation should always be on an equal footing. No one wants to be treated differently. You and I are the same, bar that I'm a woman and I have a slightly browner skin tone than say you do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of the focus on differences and I suppose the regular narrative, I mean, I hear personally of the mistreatment of Black people. Naturally, I carry that with me. I carry it within my being. And I'm working to break out of that stigma of shouting about the fact that, let's say, I'm the only Black woman on my team working within IT and working within the rail industry. I'm just a person like you. I don't feel the need to celebrate the fact as though it's an achievement. But I mean, on the other hand, I suppose acknowledging it means that Black people and females alike feel inspired to come aboard and I suppose join a company like EMR or join an IT team, which they wouldn't ordinarily think to do because of those stigmas. So
yeah, and I think a huge part of East Midlands Railway journey and also rail full stop is about embracing that difference and embracing that change. And I think there's definitely something to be said of when people bring their true authentic selves, sometimes we have to accept as a business that's going to cause some frictions at times, and we have to accept that as a kind of a creative friction, and kind of almost embrace that. And so I know I've worked in teams where diversity has been introduced, and to begin with, that's not always comfortable, but that's when you get that creative challenge coming in, which really drives forward that team. So sometimes it to hear you speak, I go, oh, this is going to be so easy, but then I remind myself that actually getting that blend of diversity around the table combined with that inclusion where the voices are really being heard is always going to be a challenge. But I think this conversations like this need to be had to help people move that forward.
I completely agree with what you just said there, Chris. In my opinion, I think and I think we both agree here, the perfect table is where everybody's different. They are their true authentic selves and it's not an issue. And I think in that scenario, that table can be celebrated.
And when we start getting that diverse table of people and that diverse table of opinions where people are being their true selves and being heard, that is when you begin to really drive that change and create that benefit of diversity and inclusion. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. We've done it across a couple of sections because diaries have been a real challenge. And just to summarise, really, I wonder if we set some challenges to the listeners, assuming that anyone's going to listen to this, I'm sure they will, and around a few things around wanting to understand what makes them different. So firstly, Black History Month is about understanding Black heritage, but I actually wonder how many of us at all understand our own heritage, whether that be Black heritage, white heritage, Asian, Polish. We're a broad church in EMR, and I wonder how many of us have actually taken the time to understand that heritage. So one of the things I'm going to do next time I see my parents is dig a bit more into, well, yeah, I know my granddad was a butcher, but what about his dad? What about them? And what about and just dig a bit back a bit deeper to really understand and appreciate that.
And I'm going to do the same, Chris.
Yeah. Brilliant. And I think the second one, and I think one of the things you've done really candidly and openly today is talk about that the race and difference that you experience being sort of a female of colour in IT and in the railway. So thank you for that. But I challenge others to get more confident talking about it. You know, I understand it's not an easy subject to talk about, but it's only by talking about it we stop it being a divisive tool. And really kind of look to understand other people's points of view. And then my final challenge is about how you identify your own uniqueness and embrace it. Because that when you begin to identify your own uniqueness, you can all of a sudden start bringing your authentic self, because accepting what makes you unique really helps on that journey. So I think they're my 3 challenges, not just to you, Aisha, but to our listeners as well. Aisha, thank you very much for our conversation. I've really enjoyed it. It's been insightful. I'm really glad you are on board and with East Midlands Railway, and hopefully that is the beginning of a very long career in IT and with East Midlands Railway. So thank you.
Thanks so much, and thank you for having me. It's been great.
Cheers. Thank you.